India had proposed eliminating or reducing tariffs on U.S. industrial goods and a range of agricultural products, including dried distillers' grains, red sorghum, tree nuts, fresh and processed fruit, soybean oil, wine and spirits. New Delhi had also stated an intention to purchase $500 billion worth of U.S. energy products, aircrafts, precious metals.
G7, I don't know if that was a good deal or not, but it's a G7, and we have a G2 coming up, and then we have a G20 coming up. You know what the G2 is, I think, most of you. But we had in particular some very good conversations with Prime Minister Modi, India, and we're doing trade deals. We're doing a lot of things. A lot of things are happening between the United States and India. The United States is doing the best we've ever done. We have over $19.2 trillion coming in, and we're building factories, we're building everything, and Prime Minister is building a lot in the United States. He's spending a lot of money in the United States, so we appreciate that job. But I just want to say he's been my friend for a long time now, and we've always had a great relationship, and it's great to be with you. Thank you very much. Great to be with you.
Thank you. राष्ट्रपति जी, आपसे मिलकर के बहुत खुशी हो रही है और पिछले वर्ष हम वाशिंगटन में मिले थे। उसके बाद हमारे संबंधों में एक नई गति आई है, नई ऊर्जा आई है और कई विषयों में हम बहुत मिल करके आगे चल रहे हैं।
Mr. President, it's a pleasure to meet you here in Avia. We had an extremely productive meeting in Washington last year, and since then we have given new speed and new energy to our relations, and we are working together on a number of areas.
और हमारे लिए खुशी की बात है कि हमारी दोनों टीमें भी मिलजुल करके हमने जो टारगेट तय किए उसको पूरा करने के लिए भरपूर प्रयास कर रहे हैं और हम बहुत तेजी से आगे बढ़ रहे हैं.
And we are also happy that our teams have also been working in close coordination and engagement, and they have been working towards achievement of the targets that we had set for ourselves last year.
एक्सेलेंसी, पश्चिम एशिया में शांति के जो प्रयास में प्रगति हुई है, इसके लिए मैं आपका अभिनंदन करता हूं.
Mr. President, I commend you for your leadership on the progress that has been made in the efforts to restore peace in West Asia.
आपके इन प्रयासों के कारण पश्चिम एशिया में शांति की एक नई किरण नजर आ रही है और हम आशा करते हैं कि चिरस्थायी शांति बनेगी.
Thanks to your efforts, Mr. President, new hope for peace and stability in the region has been rekindled, and I'm confident that this will lead to a long-standing peace in the region.
एक्सेलेंसी, आप और हम सभी इस बात से सहमत हैं कि हॉर्मुज का खुला रहना एक वैश्विक अर्थव्यवस्था के लिए बहुत ही अनिवार्य है.
Mr. President, you and I agree that keeping the Strait of Hormuz open is vital for the global economy.
एक्सेलेंसी, हम हमेशा कहते रहे हैं कि फ्रीडम ऑफ नेविगेशन सुनिश्चित होना चाहिए और इस पर हम सब ने मिलकर के बल देना चाहिए.
India has consistently emphasized the importance of ensuring freedom of navigation, and we should work together and place a particular emphasis on that.
एक्सेलेंसी, आप जानते हैं कि मैरिटाइम ट्रेड की दुनिया में भारत के लाखों सीफेरर्स आज दुनिया के अलग अलग समुद्र में अपनी सेवाएं दे रहे हैं, विश्व की प्रगति में बहुत बड़ा योगदान दे रहे हैं और मैं समझता हूं कि उनकी सुरक्षा भी उतना ही महत्वपूर्ण है.
Mr. President, you are aware across the world, Indian seafarers in hundreds of thousands are working and they're performing their duties across global maritime trade routes, including the Strait of Hormuz, and their safety is of utmost importance to us.
एक्सेलेंसी, समझौते के लिए शांति के प्रयासों में आपने भरपूर प्रयास किया है. मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि समझौते में सीफेरर की सुरक्षा भी सुनिश्चित होगी और उसको प्राथमिकता मिलेगी.
Mr. President, you made tremendous efforts towards reaching this understanding and this agreement, and I'm confident that the issue of seafarers will receive the highest priority during the implementation of this agreement.
एक्सेलेंसी, मैं फिर एक बार पश्चिम एशिया में शांति बहाल कराने के आपके भरसक प्रयासों का मैं पूरी प्रशंसा करता हूं और आपका अभिनंदन करता हूं.
Mr. President, once again, I deeply appreciate and I deeply commend your efforts in ensuring the restoration of peace and making efforts towards restoration of peace and stability in West Asia.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Friends, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. President. We just heard the Prime Minister praise your efforts, the peace efforts in the Middle
Thank
East.
you.
Do you think you can carry the momentum from the Iran deal over to securing an end to the war in Ukraine? And can you tell us about your conversations with President Zelensky here at the G7?
Well, I had very good talks with President Zelensky and with President Putin, and we'd like to see that one end. I ended 8 wars, and to be honest with you, I thought this would have been one of the easier ones, but they're not liking each other too much, and that makes it much more difficult. But we're working. I had 2 good conversations with President Zelensky and with President Putin.
Will you let them build U.S. missiles or Europe manufacture missiles, American missiles?
They would like to be able to do that. We'll take a look at it. They have asked about it. Steve?
How close are you to a U.S.-India trade deal?
Very close. We've been there for a little while, and he's a very tough negotiator. He's one of the toughest, actually. So you look at this man. I'll give you a lesson. He's the most beautiful-looking man. He looks so nice. He's like an angel. But actually, he's as tough as he's a killer. I don't want to. He's a killer. He's as tough as they come. But he looks so good. So he gets you by surprise. But there's few people like this. People say he's such a nice man. I said no, he's very tough. He's a tough trader, and he loves the Indian people, but he also loves the USA. We had Howdy Modi in Houston, remember? And the stadium was full. Right, remember that?
He did say Trump in
That was great. And we'll be going to India sometime in the future.
President Trump, when will you go to India, and how do you see Quad as well? This is a grouping that was started under your first term, and this is a grouping that all the 4 countries are looking forward to.
Well, we had a great visit last time in India. We opened up that new stadium, and I think there were 300,000-400,000 people. It seated like about 150,000, and there were 250,000 outside, and there were 100,000 on the grass. That was, I don't know if that record's ever been broken, but I had a great time in India.
Do you expect India to play any role in West Asia? I'm Siddhant from
Say it.
Do you expect India to play any role in West Asia?
Yeah, I do. I think India plays a big role in everything. As long as he's the leader, India's going to play a big role.
And
You said many times that India has a great friend in United States, in Washington, D.C., in White House, till the time you are president. But some of your decisions recently caused trouble, concern in India. How would you like to assure people of India?
Well, I said it. As long as I'm president, we have a great. They have a great friend in the White House. I don't know where there might have been a trouble, but I don't think so. I can tell you, everyone here, they love India. They have tremendous respect for this man. Tremendous. Go ahead, ma'am.
Are there going to be sanctions that are going to be reimposed on Russia now that the focus has once again been shifted to the Ukraine-Russia war?
We are looking at that. We're seeing how far the price of oil comes down. It's really tumbling. It's, I guess, 74, 75 right now. So it's down. It's soon going to be at the number that it was 4 months ago. It's pretty amazing. And on top of that, we will have an Iran without a nuclear weapon, which I can tell you the Prime Minister feels very strongly about that, too.
What did Mr. President hear from European or G7 leaders?
They were to a leader, and we had G7 plus many others came, as you know. To a leader, they were thrilled. They could not have been happier. Well, this gentleman came, and that's a big get. He came, and they cannot even believe that it happened. It happened quickly. But it really didn't happen quickly. It's been happening for a long time. It's been happening from my first term, when a very evil man named Soleimani was killed. That's when it started. And nobody else did this but Trump. You know, you look at our president, 47 years, Iran took advantage of the world, the Middle East, but the world. Nobody did anything. The Obama deal was one of the dumbest deals I've ever seen. It was a road to a nuclear weapon. My deal is a wall to a nuclear. You're not going to have it. It's a wall to a nuclear weapon.
Minesweepers? Do you want the Europeans to send minesweeper boats? Did you talk about that?
We don't need them, but if they want to send them, I think it's good.
Has anyone committed to helping out?
Yes, all of them. All of them.
Which nations?
The ones that have that kind of equipment have. but every one of them have committed to being involved in some form.
And at this point, do you feel that Vladimir Putin is more responsible for the ongoing conflict in Ukraine?
Well, I don't want to comment on that because I'm trying to get it settled, and that doesn't make it easy.
Mr. President, you're on the cusp of making history with the possible peace in the Iran conflict.
I like this guy. Who is he? Do you know who that is? I like him. Your reporters are much nicer than my reporters. Go ahead.
But there is also a tragic loss of lives of Indian sailors recently, sir, in American strikes. Any words of condolences for the grieving families, sir?
Yeah, I do. I heard about that. It's a rough profession. There's no question about it. And we work together on it. This has been happening throughout time, but we work together on it. Yeah, certainly. We love all of those people. They're great people. Yeah, please.
How long do you expect Bill Pulte to be acting DNI?
Well, as long as it takes to get everybody else approved. I mean, they were doing a rush act, and we didn't get anything for it. Look, he's a very legitimate guy. He's very smart. He's a brilliant guy. Look at the job he did at Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. I mean, it's worth probably $1 trillion right now. So we put him there, but all of a sudden it was like a rush act by the Democrats. And they said they were going to approve FISA. And I said, but we want FISA approved, but we want the Save America Act approved. Voter ID, proof of citizenship, no mail-in ballots, with exceptions, like for the military, you're sick, you're traveling, disabled. Very, open and generous. We also want no men playing in women's sports, and we want no transgender mutilization of our children. None. Those are 5 things that are 99% that's all we want. It's not a lot. The Save America Act. And that can be passed any way they want to pass it, but I'm not going to sign FISA unless it's done. And this was like a rush act. And it was a rush act by the Democrats. All of a sudden they want to get... And why are they afraid of this guy? I mean, they're so afraid of him, they'll do anything not to have Pulte go in there. He's a very capable guy, and they're worried about that.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am, please.
You said the Iran deal, the text is still being finalized. How confident are you that this Friday signing will happen?
You're talking about this one, on the deal? Deals are amazing. I've done them all my life. I've gone into deals that were 100% and they don't happen. I've gone into deals that there was no chance of getting them done, and it happens, and they happen easily. So you never know with deals, do you? But you're going to find out pretty soon. I think it'll be done. They want to sign. They want to get back to a normal life. We hit them very hard. Don't forget, people talk about when this started. This didn't start 3-4 months ago. This started years ago when I took out Soleimani. That was a big event. There are those that say it was the biggest event in the Middle East in 50 years. So we took him out, and they became a much different country. And then I terminated the JCPOA, that's Barack Hussein Obama's horrible deal, that gave them a nuclear weapon. And I terminated it, and I stopped it. And then I stopped it a second time with the B-2 bombers. And these are all major events in the history of the world, in my opinion, because it prevented them from having a nuclear weapon. And now we're going to do it again, and we're going to see how it works out. So this is a memorandum of understanding, but it's a very strong one. This isn't just like a 2-paragraph. This is a long, pretty detailed memorandum that goes into a regular contract. I would think they would do it. If they don't, then that's okay. We'll have to start the process again. And we don't lose. We have the greatest military in the world. We had the greatest blockade. The naval blockade was 100% effective. And again, they have no Navy, they have no Air Force, all bombed out. I don't want to say the leaders, but first level of leader, gone. Second level of leaders, gone. Some of the third level of leaders, gone. And they want to make a deal. They are so ready to make a deal. Yeah. But you know what?
President Trump, can you speak to the defense relationship between India and the United States? Sorry, I'm speaking, I won't.
That's okay.
Can you speak to the defense relationship between India and the United States?
I think it's a great relationship. I can tell you this, without having a contract, we don't have a contract, you have to write contract. But if they were attacked, we would be there to help them.
And how are trade negotiations going?
How is that? Is that a good statement? Okay, come here, man. If anybody attacks that man, we're going to be there. Now, if there's a new leader, I'm not sure about it. Okay? If there's a new leader, I don't know about that. But if they're attacked and he's the leader, we're going to be there to help. And we have, and I will say this, and everybody says it. I had a great meeting 3 weeks ago with President Xi of China. We have the strongest military in the world by far, and I built it in my first term, and we're using it in my second term, and they gave some of it away stupidly in Afghanistan, as you know, and they spent a lot on Ukraine, $350 billion, but we have the most powerful military in the world. You saw that with Venezuela, which was 48 minutes, and now our relationship with Venezuela is great. We paid for the cost of the war 40 times, taking millions of barrels out. Venezuela's benefiting, we're benefiting, Venezuela's benefiting, and then we go to Iran, and really in the first week, militarily, we defeated Iran. Nobody thought that could be done. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, do you want Israel to halt its military campaign?
No, I want Israel to be able to protect himself, but I do want them to use good judgment.
Can we expect a highly skilled Indian professional to be getting more opportunities in the United States under your presidency?
What does that mean? What?
Well, highly skilled professionals to get more opportunities here in the US.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, always.
Yeah.
We've always had tremendous relationships in terms of employment with India. Very talented people.
You've seen European leaders interact very warmly with you at the summit. Do you think that they're coming around to your worldview?
Well, I think they think I was right. I'm sort of always right. You know, when you get right down to it, I think they think I was right. They feel good. Now all of a sudden they all want to be involved. There's no reason to have them because it's pretty much over. But they all want to be involved. He'd be involved if I wanted, but we don't want to waste his time or his people. No, the European leaders, the meeting we had today was just the leaders. I don't even say the European, the leaders that we had met with. In addition to the 7, we had quite a few come in. They all were willing to get involved. Thank you. Thank you. We had a great meeting on AI. We had all the top people here, and it was a great meeting. And as you know, we're building tremendous numbers of plants, but AI, we're building the biggest in the world. We're #1 in AI by a lot, and it was a very productive
How's it
meeting.
going with the negotiations with Anthropic?
He was here, going fine. I think it's going fine.
Energy cooperation. How do you see energy cooperation? India is diversifying, buying more energy from across the world, including United States. I'm enhanceable from beyond. How do you see India buying energy from you?
India can do anything they want with us. We have the best relationship. We cannot be closer than we are. Would you say that, sir? I don't think we can be any closer. Both him and I and our nations, but it really starts with the two of us. We cannot be closer. Thank you very much.
All right, so that was the joint briefing by the United States President Donald Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi after their bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the G7 summit, and relations couldn't have been closer, is what the US President Donald Trump has claimed. He also did answer NewsX's question on oil from Russia, saying we're going to look at the impact after the war of oil prices. They have come down, and he's also saying that he's going to be looking at an end to the US, to the Russia-Ukraine conflict now as well, after the signing of the peace deal with Iran. He's spoken about how India has a very, very close friend in the White House. He said we would be there in a second if they're attacked, as long as Prime Minister Modi is the leader of India. He, on a lighter note, said, I'm not sure if there's any other leader there, how we'll react, but as long as PM Modi is the leader of India, I would be there in a second. I am very, very fond of Prime Minister Modi. He also, of course, praised his negotiation skills, saying he's a tough negotiator, but he's hopeful that a US-India trade deal will also be final very, very soon. So big indication given by President Trump. Now let's get to Prime Minister Modi's statement. Prime Minister Modi, of course, also praised US President Donald Trump's leadership and, of course, peace efforts, particularly in the Middle East, saying that he's hopeful this West Asia deal will lead to long-lasting peace and freedom of navigation as well. And the big news point also coming in from the US-India bilateral is that the issue of the attacks on the 3 seafarers and the killing of the Indian sailors was raised by the Indian side in this meeting. That is something that the Indian Prime Minister said, that we have a lot of seafarers and their safety is paramount for us, and that is something that the US must also understand and give priority to. Donald Trump also was questioned on that, and he did say that yes, that was raised by the Indian side and PM Modi, and he did say it's a very rough situation out there, but we have the highest respect for the Indian seafarers, and of course also took cognizance of what had happened there off the Strait of Hormuz, in fact very close to the Gulf of Oman. So clearly, of course, the issue of the Indian seafarers being killed in that US attack has now been raised at the highest level. It was, of course, raised on the ambassadorial front when the Chargé d'Affaires US Embassy was summoned not once but twice in New Delhi. It was also raised by our foreign minister to the US Secretary of State, and now it has been raised at the highest level by Prime Minister Modi to US President Donald Trump as well. Meanwhile, of course, also speaking on defense, trade and energy ties, the US President has said that our relations couldn't have been better, and we are, of course, building close ties in all those spheres, of course, heaping praise at every juncture on Prime Minister Modi's leadership and saying that I believe the relationship with India has never been closer, and I will always be there for India if they ever need me. All right, let's get quick reactions now to that joint press briefing and also the meeting outcomes. Today, of course, the US-India bilateral happening on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Evian, France. Sharad Kohli, economist, with us live. Major General Sudhakarji, geopolitical expert, is also joining us on the broadcast. Let me bring you in here, Sharad Kohli. That meeting has just ended now in the press briefing as well. What is your biggest takeaway?
Well, good evening, Uday, to you, Mr. Sudhakaran, and the viewers. Well, honestly speaking, I'm personally never convinced with what President Trump says. He does lace it with, Prime Minister Modi is a great leader, he's a very dear friend, and so on and so forth. But, I've seen over the last few months, I don't want to sound pessimistic or critical, but from the experience, I've seen that what he speaks and what he does, there's a lot of difference between the two. So unless a deal is signed today, I would rather believe, because they have threatened 12% tariffs because of forced labor and other stuff. He said, I'm going to be with India if they are attacked or whatever. Only Prime Minister Modi is there. Only time can test that situation. And I'm sure that situation will never come, that we need a help from a third country, first of all. I think Major Sudhakaran would agree with that. We don't need help from a third country for that matter. We are quite capable of handling if there is somebody attacking us, one. On the economic front, I feel I like to speak about the question raised by NewsX, Uday, about the Russian oil sanctions.
Absolutely.
I thought there was not a clear answer. We will see what the situation is.
Yeah, and we will see how oil prices continue, and we'll observe that. Absolutely.
Exactly. So I personally feel this is a matter of India's sovereignty, Uday. And India has got a right to buy oil from wherever it wants, at whatever price it wants, and whenever it wants. So I feel that America has got no right in intervening in our dealings with Russia. That's my first take. My second take is they allow us you can buy it for 1 month and you stop. I think that period is going to expire soon. Then you stop buying. Otherwise, the threat-based policies, politics, the threat-based policies for that matter, threat-based sanctions, I think they are not the right way as far as diplomacy is concerned. That's what I feel. So I think we will continue to buy oil from them, Uday. irrespective, I don't think we are going to stop buying oil because we
Yes.
have an energy issue out here. And we are facing inflation. We have to think in the interest of our own country.
We've diversified. We've diversified absolutely our oil purchases, but we will continue to buy oil from Russia, is what you're clearly indicating, and we should as well, as your opinion. Let me also go to Major General Sudhakarji. Before that, let me quickly also apprise our viewers that President Trump did also speak very highly of his visit to India as well, remembering how he had gone to the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad and it was packed, also drawing reference to the Howdy Modi event that the Prime Minister of India had attended in the United States of America along with Donald Trump a few years ago. President Trump, interestingly, didn't really comment on the Quad at all, even though he was asked a specific question on that as well. But let me bring in Major General Sudhakarji as well, who's also live with us now on this bilateral. Major General Sudhakarji, which has finally happened. President Trump, of course, indicating a complete reset in ties and relations. Also, interestingly, being asked about certain decisions that may not have gone down very well with India. He feigned ignorance of that and said that I'm not quite sure why that should have happened, because I will always be a well-wisher of India and every decision I take would be in the interest of India as well, as long as PM Modi is the Prime Minister of the country. Your first takeaway on the meeting that has just concluded and on the briefing as well by the two leaders.
Uday, good evening. Thank you. I'll make very quick reflections as I have to switch to other channel. The first and foremost thing, without meaning to be a pessimist, I would advise the government of India to exercise caution. Donald Trump or anybody from USA cannot be trusted. One. Number two, I would say that all this bluster and euphoria must be examined critically and objectively. 1.5 years have just passed by with enough of turbulences that is never heard in the history of diplomatic relationship between two countries, largest and the oldest democracies. And third and most important thing, if a deputy secretary of a State Department has got the temerity to come and attend a formal global event as Raisina Dialogue and say, he made an announcement that America will never allow India to become the second China. Well, I have nothing to say. It is for the people of the country to decide which side of the clear indications. Indo-Pacific Command has changed to which was existing earlier in 2018. Plus, the Quad is no longer being talked about. If it is being talked about, then it is being talked about in a subtle manner with related to critical mineral and technology, etc., etc. We are member of Pax Silica is fine, but one has to be very, very cautious when we look at USA as a long-term partner, dependable partner. And I tend to agree with what Dr. Kohli has said. India has fended off without support from USA in all the conflicts that it has faced post the independence. We have not taken any support, nor has USA offered any support. Rather, Israel has come to our rescue and support. So therefore, we have to keep all these things in mind. These big talks and I would say bombastic kind of expression, that has to be seen in the true light. Last but not the least, keep in mind that the Quad is not being talked as a Quad. They have coined a new terminology called a Squad. What is Quad? It is Japan, Australia, USA, and Philippines. They have signed a formal official agreement to that effect. Okay. Number two, they have also taken Indonesia. I think last month they signed a strategic relationship, and that also is subsequently going to add on to this Quad, and a couple of more countries will add on. Today, India, as things stand, it has been left in a lurch. Pakistan is on the lap of USA. We know what is happening in West Asia. The meeting on 14th and 15th of May has given out a strong message of constructive strategic stability based on cooperation by Xi. Xi indirectly or directly has communicated, don't be driven by Thucydides doctrine. Do not always confront. You have enough space to grow. I have enough space to grow. I am following a principle of influencing the countries, not the sphere of influence which you have been practicing.
Absolutely. Just hold that thought. I want to quickly put out some news for our viewers now. The United States President Donald Trump has answered a question posed by NewsX after the bilateral meeting between Donald Trump and Narendra Modi. NewsX asked Donald Trump on the sanctions on Russian oil purchases by India. Donald Trump replied saying that the oil prices are coming down. Let's in fact listen in to what NewsX asked Trump and how he responded.
Are there going to be sanctions that are going to be reimposed on Russia now that the focus has once again been shifted to the Ukraine-Russia war?
We are looking at that. We're seeing how far the price of oil comes down. It's really tumbling. It's, I guess, 74, 75 right now. So it's down. It's soon going to be at the number that it was 4 months ago. It's pretty amazing. And on top of that, we will have an Iran without a nuclear weapon, which I can tell you the Prime Minister feels very strongly about that too.
Megha Sharma is joining us on the broadcast for more details on this story from France. Megha, you posed that question to the United States President in that press conference after the bilateral meeting that occurred on the sidelines of G7. Take us through what exactly you asked Donald Trump and how he responded to that and how you interpret what he said.
Yes, absolutely. You know, in wake of the West Asia crisis that seeming is now coming to an end, we still don't know. There's still 48 hours to go. But he has at this point of time indicated that the oil prices have come crashing down to a 3-month low, in fact. And he has spoken about how he's going to figure out the situation, see and review it, and then make a decision with regards to whether there are going to be fresh sanctions imposed on purchases of Russian oil. He's also spoken about how the Strait of Hormuz, now that it is open, will allow for free flow of commercial vessels carrying gas and oil, and that is going to further positively impact the energy requirements that have caused quite the flurry all across the globe in terms of the economics and the markets and inflation and so on and so forth. There were a number of other big statements that were made by U.S. President Donald Trump. One that comes to mind...
I'll just come to that in just a second, but specifically on this answer now, that of course we got exclusively after the NewsX question, clearly no firm stance put forth by the US as well, because as we were talking earlier in the day, that sanctions waiver actually ends today. So right now the US non-committal on whether sanctions will be back or not, obviously saying it depends on the oil prices, because obviously the US does not want those prices to rise further if sanctions are imposed too early.
Yes, absolutely. That's the indication. You know, it's also interesting to note whether in the text, the document that is going to be finally shared after the MOU is signed, whether there is going to be the clause that these sanctions on Iran be lifted. It's important to note that before the sanctions were imposed by the United States of America in the past, previous dispensations that have imposed sanctions on Iran has led to India completely halting its oil purchases, oil imports from Iran. Now, if those sanctions get lifted as a condition that has also been put forth by Iran for it to sign the MOU, it may solve a lot of our problems in terms of getting cheaper oil from Iran. But at the same time, America wants to dissuade India from buying oil either from Iran or from Russia. He has his vested interest in mind. He wants the energy cooperation between India and America to further bolster, and for that he would definitely go ahead and push India to buy more and more American oil, more Venezuelan oil. That was also something that he indicated in that press briefing when a question was asked with regards to what is the status of the India-US energy cooperation. So, you know, there are a lot of these fragments that if we look them with a bird's eye view, give us a total picture of what is it that the American administration under U.S. President Donald Trump is looking to do in terms of India's, in terms of its...
Yes, hold that thought. Hold that thought. In fact, Sharad Kohli also wants to quickly come in on this big statement by the U.S. President to NewsX.
Well, first of all, my congratulations to Megha, you, Rishabh, Karthike, and ITV Network, because you had the largest democracy and the oldest democracy, heads of state sitting there, and there was NewsX asking the question. A matter of pride for ITV Network, first of all. I think on the Russian sanctions, I have a feeling that the sanctions will not be imposed as yet, because he did speak about the oil prices. He said it's $74, $75, whereas it's about $78, $79. I'm talking of the Brent. He was talking of the WTI. We normally talk about the Brent crude. So with the prices, he wants the prices to come down to $67, which means that the indication is that the sanctions may not come back from tomorrow, Uday. That's where I wanted to intervene. So I would like to convey that to.
That's what you're indicating. They're unlikely to come in from tomorrow, based on what, of course, US President has said, and based on also your assessment of the market situation right now and oil prices as well. All right, Megha, yes, take us through some more takeaways that you were just indicating that have come out from that joint press briefing after the bilateral.
Yes, while the Prime Minister Narendra Modi did not take any questions from the reporters, there were no questions posed to him, but there were a barrage of questions that were posed to US President Donald Trump. One amongst them was about the defense cooperation between India and America, and Trump went all out. In fact, he just shook hands with Modi. He went ahead and said that if India were to be attacked anytime, the United States of America will stand by India, it will support it, it will defend it. And then he went ahead and asked that question to Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of India, saying, did I do good? Did I do good by India? Did I do good by you? And he said that till the time Prime Minister Modi stays as the Prime Minister of the country, he will go all out supporting India. But keeping in mind, in terms of what has happened in the last 16 months, Operation Sindoor, of course, America hyphenating India with Pakistan, America's closeness, particularly Donald Trump's closeness from Asim Munir to Shahbaz Sharif, and those financial transactions, deals that are being cut between Pakistan and his family. Those all indicate that he obviously wants Pakistan to act as its puppet. It has been doing so. But this statement, he is definitely wooing India. There was an awkward situation that India and America faced in the last few months.
Yes.
He's trying to, make it better. He's
Absolutely.
trying to resolve the previous problems. He's lauded Prime Minister Modi a lot of times, because the number one question that was asked was, what about the trade deal? Is it going to be signed? When is it going to be signed? He said, Prime Minister Modi looks like an angel. He looks so good. He said that, but he's a tough negotiator. He's a tough man to deal with. But
So obviously personal efforts by Donald Trump in trying to bring about this complete reset in US-India ties. Will that translate, though, into action on ground? That is the big question. Major General Rajan Kochhar also quickly coming in now, defense expert. Major General Kochhar, a big briefing, of course, big statements being made at that briefing, of course, by the US President and by the Indian Prime Minister. What were your takeaways from today's bilateral meeting and some of those statements given by the two leaders after briefing the media?
Thank you for inviting me to this discussion, because it's very, very important here, because I think some the ice needs to have been broken, because it's a long period of 16 months and the relations have not gone in an upward trajectory. They've gone in a downward trajectory. So I would take it point by point. The first point has been mentioned about defense. Donald Trump making a statement that in case if there is aggression, he will stand by India. I don't believe it. And I've got my own reasons to say that, because the aggression will come from where? Aggression will come from Pakistan. So my friend Munir and my friend Modi, who's a greater friend here, we need to identify. And we have had past experience, as you rightly said. I want to bring your attention to the opening statement made by Prime Minister Modi here, that trust is very important between friends. And he made this statement right at the beginning, before this meeting started. As a matter of fact, he made this statement at the G7 meeting. So I think it was directly aimed at the United States, because why has it taken more than 1 year to come to a trade agreement? Because there's no trust in each other. And there are many contention issues in the trade agreement. And if I come to the next point of trade being expanded by 2030, $500 billion, from where is $500 billion are going to come? And largely is going to be oil or energy and defense. Now, why should India be binded by buying oil and gas from America at 4 times the cost? Why can't we go to Russia and why can't we go to other countries in meeting our requirements? And why not Iran? Because in case these sanctions are limited, what permits us after 2019? There has been no oil imports from Iran, and I think India should welcome this opportunity in case the sanctions are lifted. And what about Russia? Are we dependent on those sanctions with the Americans imposing upon us? Where goes this policy of strategic autonomy then? So I have got very serious reservations on this, and I would like to voice it on your channel that we should not limit our options, and Russia presents a very good option for us. And my last point is about defense, because specifically it has been mentioned. I want to ask Donald Trump, which I think should have been asked. Why are you stopping those jet engines or for our Tejas project from coming to India? Why are you not transferring the technology which Saffron in France is saying that we are willing to give you technology? Even Russia is saying you buy a Su-57 from us and we will give you all the technology, transfer everything to you. So why Donald Trump is restricting 180 engines were ordered in 2021 and only around 1 dozen have been supplied so far? And do we expect this from an ally? Do we expect this from a friend? Of course, the other things are there. When the Deputy Secretary comes in the Resina dialogue, he makes a statement that, we won't allow India to grow as we made the mistake with China, whatever it is. So now I would like to send a message in my concluding statement here to Donald Trump from your channel. Please walk the talk. And if you are saying that you're going to stand by India in case of
absolutely. No, you're right. A lot of the devil will be in the detail. And of course, we'll have to see how words now translate into action on ground. But of course, attempts at least by the US president in a complete reset through what he said. And of course, his praise of PM Modi, though, which he's maintained all along. But Ambassador Gauri Shankar Gupta, former diplomat, let me quickly draw you in here as well on this bilateral meeting, its outcomes, and the presser after as well. What was your interpretation of the messaging, the agenda items that were on the table? What is your key takeaway?
You see, the first important issue which had happened during the last 15 months was the bitterness which had come between India and America. Now, this bitterness was because of the messaging by President Trump himself and Navarro, one of his advisors. They used words like dead economy, hellhole, and they stopped the war between India and Pakistan, and all kinds of other things happened. I think it was important to overcome that bitterness. I have a feeling that that bitterness has been partially overcome now. That is very, very important, because before that bitterness, the relations were smooth. We have multidimensional ties with the US, and those are in our national interest. We have to develop our trade. We have to invite investment from US. We have to have collaboration in defense. We have to have transfer of technology. We need to have more collaboration in education sector. I think these are the areas where our vital interest is concerned. And that is why I feel that the Prime Minister Modi did not refer to that bitterness in his opening remarks. He basically, stated that, our relations are going on in the forward way. And that was absolutely clearly made by Prime Minister to other interlocutors, including Rubio and the US Ambassador in Delhi, Gore. So I think that must have been conveyed to the president himself. And since then, he has softened his approach and he has realized that what he acted, particularly imposing 25% additional duty only on India, was another very important, negative step. So at this moment, I was not expecting a major breakthrough. I was expecting that bitterness should go down so that the routes are open, the further, strengthening of relations can happen. Now, the next point would be the trade deal, free trade deal between the two countries. Now, that deal is almost complete. I think there are last minute hitches on about, I would say, 5% of the items are remaining. That, in my view, would be completed in the near future and we would be able to sign the deal. These routes will open that our relations will become smooth. Now, so far as the Pakistan is concerned, I think Trump has used Pakistan as interlocutor with Iran, and that he has himself diluted now. He is giving more reward to Oman, not Oman, sorry, this Qatar. Qatar was praised by him in his last interview tremendously. So he feels that Qatar played a major role in that deal rather than Pakistan. So I think we should move forward despite our, what you call challenges between our relationship. It is in our interest to smoothen those ties and to move forward despite the bitterness which was created. And that is the route I think Prime Minister Modi has taken. And I have full confidence that this will open up.
You're right, because, things don't happen. Yeah, things don't happen overnight and things will not happen at this, polar-side meeting on the sidelines of a multilateral forum. But from the tone and tenor, from the wordings, from the, from what was discussed, you do believe that finally things are on the right track, Ambassador Gupta?
We will move forward now. And I have a lot of confidence in Sergio Gore because he is a person who will he is on the ground and he knows India, he understands the importance of India, and he is close to President Trump. He would be able to explain him. I'm sure he must have explained him and he would continue to explain that it is good and it is in the interest of US to have good relations with India. I think that will open up our path to greater relationship, further strengthening of relationship. We should not emphasize too many negative things in our own interest because trading with US is in our interest. We export almost $100 billion worth of commodities and we won't find that kind of market elsewhere. Similarly, investments coming from US are important despite whatever Trump may say. And the technological collaborations are going on. IT sector, we have very intensive collaboration. In space, we have intensive collaboration. In education, we have intensive collaboration. Because of some negative tones, we should not dilute that and should not make it more difficult. And that is the approach as a diplomat I would like to take. And I think Prime Minister Modi has taken that approach as well. That despite the some of the negative remarks made by them, we should move forward, and that is what we are doing.
And we've seen Major General Kochar. The fact is that this has been a very measured meeting and dialogue by the Indian side as well. As you said as well, we'll have to wait and watch. A lot of the devil is in the detail. We'll have to see if words translate into action. Absolutely. Because the US president's style is to have these, big statements, and that is how he does diplomacy. It's different from how others do diplomacy, but that is how he does diplomacy. We'll have to see what action, though, the US takes in the forthcoming meetings and the forthcoming statements and days and weeks as well. But the measured approach taken by Indian Prime Minister as well. No hugs yesterday, a firm handshake. Of course, very warm, very cordial. We saw the US president stand up to meet him. Obviously, the respect for India was on full display in the G7 photograph as well. Pride of place given to PM Modi, front of center, right next to Emmanuel Macron. On the other side was Donald Trump. On one side was Narendra Modi. Today, of course, we also saw the Seafarers issue. Again, a contentious issue. that has also been raised by the Indian Prime Minister in this meeting with the US President as well. Also, his statement, of course, was pretty measured in the press statement that he gave after the meeting, and spoke about the peace efforts, of course, the Iran deal, freedom of navigation, peace restoration, something that India has always stood off, free movement in the Strait of Hormuz. All of that also being put on the table by the Indian side and the Indian Prime Minister. Major General Kochhar.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I'll just take out some keywords because, see, there is no point trying to Yugolize a thing because we need to be realistic. What is the situation in the world today and how this entire world has been impacted by this war? It is known to everybody, and we in India also are facing this brunt here, and we are also realizing that we need to work towards making the energy security as our prime focus. And I think that's why Qatar and UAE are very prime strategic partners as far as India is concerned. Now this visit, yes, I've been very closely because I'm a follower of body language because I happen to have done my PhD in a subject called emotional intelligence. So I follow this thing very, very closely. Definitely, there has been a difference as far as the approach of Prime Minister Modi has been concerned. Because if you see the videos of the earlier meetings with Trump and now, you will see the difference. And I think that was required also. Because a message, a subtle message needs to be conveyed to the United States that we cannot be pushed beyond an extent. I think that message has been conveyed, and that is the result of a softening of approach of Trump also, because the kind of events which have taken place, and you will tend to agree with me, in the last about 10 to 12 months have not been good for our own country as far as the US approach to us has been concerned. So I look at certain positives here. The first positive what I am looking at is that a meeting has taken place and a certain point of views have been exchanged. Though of course Marco Rubio was here and things would have been conveyed through their ambassador also, because that's a normal protocol. So it happens in the normal course, but the head of state's meeting is something totally different, and I feel that the kind of statements which are emanated from Trump, though of course Trump's statements, you at times have to take with a pinch of salt, but certainly if I take the positive intent of those statements, this relationship is trying to be restored or trying to be repaired, and that is a message which is being conveyed to one and all. And a strong message to Pakistan. See, if President Trump says that in case of a war, we will stand by India, where is Pakistan then?
Right.
So I think that's a
no. Obviously, they're going to be pretty rattled by this statement.
Yes,
of course,
yes,
that has been
absolutely.
okay. Let me stay with us. Let me draw in Major General J.K. Bansal, defense expert, who I believe is also with us now. Major General Bansal, welcome. Thank you for being with us today and decoding, of course, this big Modi-Trump bilateral. Of course, it was a meeting that was many weeks and months in the making. It has now finally happened in France. What do you make of what was discussed, the key outcomes for you? What was the messaging as well by both leaders when they briefed the press after the meeting?
Good evening, Uday. Thank you very much for inviting me. There has been a very cordial relations which appears to be, and President Trump has a number of times praised Prime Minister Modi. He said he is a tough negotiator and he loves his country and everybody believes on him. So he has been a lot of praises for this. And what is most important thing is that Prime Minister Modi very categorically raised the Seafarers issue. The 3 people were killed. And he raised this, that the safety of seafarers, a lot of our in the commercial ships, our men are there and their safety is to be ensured. That has also been acknowledged and accepted by President Trump, and Prime Minister Modi praised about the peace process in the Middle East, and he mentioned that this is very, very important for the economic growth of the complete world. So when Prime Minister Modi talks, he talks about the complete world, and that is how he is considered to be a statesman, and he's liked by all the leaders of the world. So it was a very good, cordial meeting, and I think this now has been mentioned. Now we are at the stage of finalizing the trade deal. So there was a very whatever has been done after in the past. There were the few things which happens after President Trump said that he negotiated a deal between Pakistan and India during Sindhu that was not liked. But later on, America tried to normalize the relations. India was invited for Pax Silica also. So now regarding the trade, sharing this artificial intelligence and critical minerals, all things were talked about. So this was a very, very good meeting. President Trump is also likely to come to India. This is a good thing. And as such, President Trump and America knows that they cannot ignore India, and India is a strategic partnership with America. So this meeting was very good message, and it will further strengthen India and American relations.
Okay.
Back to you.
Yes, more breaking news also coming in now. Prime Minister Modi has raised the Seafarers issue with Donald Trump. Let's listen in to the statement given during the press briefing.
एक्सेलेंसी, हम हमेशा कहते रहे हैं कि फ्रीडम ऑफ नेविगेशन सुनिश्चित होना चाहिए और इस पर हम सब ने मिलकर के बल देना चाहिए। एक्सेलेंसी, आप जानते हैं कि मैरिटाइम ट्रेड की दुनिया में भारत के लाखों सीफेरर्स आज दुनिया के अलग अलग समुद्र में अपनी सेवाएं दे रहे हैं, विश्व की प्रगति में बहुत बड़ा योगदान दे रहे हैं और मैं समझता हूं कि उनकी सुरक्षा भी उतना ही महत्वपूर्ण है। एक्सेलेंसी, समझौते के लिए शांति के प्रयासों में आपने भरपूर प्रयास किया है। मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि समझौते में सीफेरर की सुरक्षा भी सुनिश्चित होगी और उसको प्राथमिकता मिलेगी। एक्सेलेंसी, मैं फिर एक बार पश्चिम एशिया में शांति बहाल कराने के आपके भरसक प्रयासों का मैं पूरी प्रशंसा करता हूं और आपका अभिनंदन करता हूं।
Major General Bansal, of course, continues to be live with us on this story. Major General Bansal, India raising the issue of the seafarers attacked in the meeting. Prime Minister Modi, of course, mentioned it in his statement. Donald Trump was asked on it as well. He also confirmed that the Indian side did raise it.
Yes, not only now, earlier also the issue was raised, and President Trump has mentioned in his press statement earlier that this cannot be accepted. So he recognized this, and they realized that this was not correct. And now our Prime Minister has emphasized time and again that seafarers' security is very, very important, and many of the Indians, they are as a seafarer, they are there. So that has been a very positively taken by America and Donald Trump, President Trump, and they will ensure it further. Back to you.
Major General Kochar, clearly, of course, India raising this issue, raising the issue of seafarers being attacked. We had summoned the US chargé d'affaires here not once but twice. The matter was also escalated to the US Secretary of State. Now, Indian Prime Minister has raised it at the highest level.
Yeah, I actually appreciate, and I would like to correct General Bansal. We have lost 6 seafarers, not 3. And there been attack on 2 of our ships. And I think it's a very, very serious issue. And India has taken this at the highest level. And Marco Rubio's statement, I was a bit disappointed, yes, because I analyzed that statement. And Ambassador Goel is also here. He would also like to comment on this, because that statement, he really did not show any regrets. But I think that's what's the reason Prime Minister Modi has raised it at this highest level, because he wants this message to be conveyed. See, today 10% of our ships only are merchant vessels, are as far as the world population of merchant vessels is concerned. We have a less number of merchant vessels, but we have almost 90% of the seafarers on each and every vessel. As a matter of fact, if you analyze this entire thing, on every foreign vessel, there are Indian sailors on board. And it's and what the Prime Minister said, it's very important to note, because this freedom of navigation, because are so many people of our country are contributing to this entire supply chain industry as far as the sea is concerned, and we have to be concerned for the safety of our people. And
all right,
United
hold that
States-
thought. Hold that thought. Another big development is coming in from Evian, France. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also holding a key bilateral with Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky as well. So big developments that we are putting out now on our screens. A bilateral being held between India and Ukraine. India and Ukraine have also held a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the G7 in France. Narendra Modi has met with Zelensky of Ukraine. In this meeting, you can see that firm handshake between the two leaders. The two leaders have also done a photo op in front of the media as well. And of course, this is a key bilateral that India is also holding with Ukraine at the G7 summit as well. Ambassador Suresh Goel, former diplomat, is with us live in the broadcast. A key bilateral meeting being held by the Indian Prime Minister with the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Your first reaction to this news coming out of France, Ambassador Goel?
Till I listen to what actually President Zelensky says about the meeting, I really will not be able to describe the meeting as a key bilateral meeting. After all, India and Ukraine have had the relations for a very, very long time. India has supported the Ukrainian cause. Prime Minister Modi has gone to the extent of saying to President Putin that this is not the era of war, clearly suggesting that a solution has to be found beyond the war. And therefore, I do not know why this meeting was so important, unless it was for the sake of just because Ukraine is looking for a way out of the war, so is Russia, and therefore there was an opportunity for President Zelensky to meet with Prime Minister Modi. So unless I know what actually was discussed between the two, it will be difficult for me to comment on that meeting.
Well, visuals, of course, coming out now from Evian in France. The Indian Prime Minister continues his bilateral meetings, of course, on the sidelines of the G7 summit. India has stood Major General Bansal for peace, of course, in the region. We've spoken on, of course, dialogue, not conflict. And we have, of course, put out our hopes for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. Prime Minister Modi, of course, has met with the President of Russia on numerous occasions. He's also, of course, gone to Ukraine to meet the Ukrainian president there. Now, PM Modi and Zelensky holding these bilateral talks in Evian, France. Major General Bansal, your first reaction. What do you expect from this meeting, and how significant is this meeting in this in this juncture also, where now the US President Trump has just indicated, about an hour ago, that his focus now is also going to be to try and mediate and mitigate the conflict in Ukraine now that the war in Iran is ending?
Most important thing is that Russia is a great friend of India, and Prime Minister Modi as well as the President Putin, they have been meeting on all occasions. Prime Minister has been telling upfront that any conflict has to be resolved by diplomacy and dialogue, and this is not the era of war. Despite that, knowing fully well, President Zelensky is meeting him, and the President Zelensky is also having great faith and confidence in India and Prime Minister Modi. And Prime Minister Modi has definitely said that no conflict can resolve any problems, only it has to be diplomacy and dialogue. And he has also mentioned, Prime Minister Modi, that sovereignty of each country has to be maintained, which is a very, very important thing, that it is absolutely in favor of Ukraine, that Ukraine's sovereignty is to be maintained. So saying the Prime Minister Modi is saying these words, that is very important openly on such a forum. And that is why President Zelensky is meeting with him. He has got the great hope, as you told about the efforts of President Donald Trump to negotiate peace between Russia and Ukraine. He made efforts, but it has not been done. Still, maybe that President Zelensky may be having much more hope from Prime Minister Modi, because he knows that there is a good relationship between President Putin and Prime Minister Modi, and they have the great confidence in each other. So must be hoping that a kind of this contribution of India also in this process, because President Zelensky has told very clearly in the coming winter there will be a lot of problem, and he wants that the peace process or some kind of agreement or the peace should be established between Ukraine and Russia. Back to you.
Major General Kocher also continues to be with us on this big story. Major General Kocher, we are of course seeing visuals now of the India-Ukraine bilateral coming in from Evian, France. Your first reaction to these visuals? Okay, I think we've lost Major General Kocher there. I believe Adit Kothari has joined us now, foreign affairs analyst. Adit, the series of bilateral meetings also continue for the Indian Prime Minister and Evian, France. PM Modi and Zelensky of Ukraine holding bilateral talks. Your first reaction to these visuals, what you believe could be on the agenda for this key meeting that the Prime Minister is holding in the sidelines of G7?
Sure. I think, while we engage with Ukraine, the aim would be essentially to balance and maintain that balance between Russia and Ukraine. India cannot sort of alienate its friends. We have to also remember that Russia stood by India in the toughest of times within the United Security Council. India has chosen to abstain, and for a friend to basically abstain in such a scenario also was a very hard step. It was a strict messaging to Russia that although we are your friends, we do not really understand your motives behind this war, and you need to think about your tactics. So I think that practical cooperation, that practical balancing is what India will have to focus on. We will have to talk about, pragmatically, how do we try and sort of ensure that, peace comes back into the region. And also India will also be looking to diversify its leverage on Ukraine. So I think, with regards to supplies and tech, from protecting Russia and ensuring that, Ukraine also doesn't end up being over-reliant on one particular partner. So there'll be a lot of talks from that perspective. And hopefully, we can see an end to this particular conflict, and somebody can reason with Zelensky to say that, senses need to prevail and Ukraine needs to go back to some sense of normality, because the West has alienated Ukraine, and that is the reality of it all.
This is a relationship that we've managed to balance very well, despite our friendship, Ambassador Goel, with Russia and of course, Vladimir Putin in particular, as well as Major General Bansal was just referring to. This has been a very, balancing act that India has carried out vis-a-vis our relations with Ukraine and with President Zelensky as well. India, of course, has stood for peace. We've made many efforts, to that direction, of course, on numerous occasions, in numerous meetings, on numerous fora. And this meeting as well, and the body language today that we're seeing between Zelensky and Modi in France also is testament to that.
As I said before, unless we know what actually both President Zelensky and Prime Minister Modi discussed, it's very, very difficult to know actually what they have in mind or comment on what they discussed. And the reason is very simple. If you look at the developments regarding Ukraine over the last 3 years, in fact, even since the beginning of the war, India was never really seen as a country which could play a mediating role in the war. The whole war between Ukraine and Russia started with Ukraine's attempt to join NATO, which Russia objected to. And obviously, we had no role to play for Ukraine to join or not to join NATO. The voices came from either Europe or from the USA. And the USA, they were all very equivocal about the membership to NATO. Nobody confirmed it. And therefore, now, at the end of 4 years, when Ukraine is still far, far away from the NATO membership, when the Ukraine is still trying to negotiate for EU membership, which actually was quite well within its reach 4 years ago. And today, it's a big if whether they will get it. They have to wait for Hungary changes in Hungary before they could say with some confidence that yes, they may be able to join European Union. And therefore, what I'm saying here is, I think the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Zelensky was more a protocol meeting, good feeling meeting. Ukraine and India have had good relations in the past, and they continue to have good relations. The students are not there anymore, but Ukraine was helpful in evacuating the Indian students. So we continue to maintain those good ties. But eventually the solution to what is happening in Ukraine, and I'm saying that again and again, simply because if Iran does get over, then the focus of the world is going to go back to Ukraine. And what happens in Ukraine then is going to decide where the security of the world, the global security will lie. So in that sense, it is important, but the role to be played in Ukraine is much greater for Europe and the USA, including Russia, than for India.
All right, we're getting more breaking news, in fact, now also coming in from France on 3 Indian seafarers killed in an attack near the Strait of Hormuz. US President Donald Trump has said, I heard about that. It's a rough profession and we will work together on it.
Of Indian sailors recently, sir, in American strikes. Any words of condolences for the grieving families? Sir?
Yeah, I do. I heard about that. It's a rough profession. There's no question about it. And we work together on it. This has been happening throughout time, but we work together on it. Yeah, certainly. We love all of those people. They're great people. Yeah, please.
But there is also a tragic loss of lives of Indian sailors recently, sir.
Well, of course, the issue of seafarers was raised, and Donald Trump also was asked on that in that press briefing as well. He commented on that. To your first interpretation of his statement, Major General Bansal.
You know, he has made this that he accepted that yes, it should not be there. And as again, I told earlier also that Prime Minister Modi has emphasized about it. And now this matter, which he has emphasized that Indian seafarers are in much more in numbers. There are almost all the ships everywhere in the world. So their security has to be maintained, which has been accepted by President Trump in principle. And he mentioned that we work together for the safety, and the safety of the seafarer is of utmost importance. Basically has been almost been accepted by President Trump, and of course both the countries, and Prime Minister Modi has also said that this sea trade and sea independence is very, very important. So that will be taken into account. Now, as far as we were talking about the Ukraine and Russia, they're talking independently. That shows the independency of the strategic relations or strategic independence of India is shown in this particular case. Of course, there are very few countries who can mediate, who can pressurize or influence any of the leader. But definitely, every country wants that they should be morally supported, and they want that their support. And India is a very big country. India is a big democracy. So the President Zelensky will definitely have it will be morale boosting for him with India on his side. And while the India is a great friend of Russia, that is the reason that yes, President Zelensky is very keen to talk and to meet Prime Minister. There will not be any deal. There will not be much contribution from the India to that. India can always advise. It is both the countries, they have to decide. Now, since Ukraine is also making deep attacks in Russia, and all oil refineries are being targeted, so Russia is also under attack. But Russia also wants that yes, now there should be a peace. So I think in these, when both the countries are willing, there may be mediation by the third country will work. If anybody will pressurize any one of them, that will not happen.
No, that's an accurate statement by you. Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev also with us now, former diplomat. Ambassador Sachdev, the issue of the seafarers has been brought up in the meeting today between the Indian and American heads of state. The US president has acknowledged the issue was raised and has said it was very sad, and has also said that it is very rough, and we will work together on the issue of their safety. That's something that Prime Minister Modi said. India takes very, very seriously the safety of our seafarers world over, including in the Strait of Hormuz.
I think this statement by President Trump is an improvement on the readout by his Secretary of State last week on the phone call protest by our External Affairs Minister, where he tried to read the Riot Act, saying that they are in violation of American blockade and they shouldn't run the risk. Now, the nuance taken by President Trump is more sensitive and shows his appreciation of India's own very high sensitivities.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us on this broadcast. We're slipping into a very short break. The news continues on NewsX.